So thanks everyone for joining this session. I think a lot of people are hitting the bars, getting ready for the concert, but appreciate you guys making the time this afternoon. We actually have I think, a lot of interesting content today to show all of you. I'm joined by one of our awesome customers, Meagan. So thank you, Meagan, for being here.
My pleasure.
Navi is going to give you a demo at the end of the solution, which I think you'll really like. And then Bill Vega, one of the senior folks at Salesforce we work with on the Revenue Cloud team for a vast majority, probably half of the customers we work with. You know, Bill's involved in some form, so we're lucky to have him with us here today. And before I'll give you an overview of the solution. Meagan will tell you what OldCastle's up to, and then Navi will give you the demo. But before that, I'll have Bill kind of kick it off and talk about Logic.io with Salesforce Revenue Cloud. Too far away? Here, I'll click for you. Oh, there you go. Oh, wrong way.
Wrong way. That's the only arrow.
The green one?
No.
Uh-oh.
Here, why don't you do this?
I got you. I got you. There we go. I'll click for you.
All right, that's good. So it's partnership working already. So as Chris said, I'm Bill Vega. I've been working for Salesforce for about 7 years in the revenue operations space. If you think about what Salesforce is trying to do, right, with revenue operations, we're trying to bring to market a set of services for revenue operations for kind of all industries, all sizes of companies, right? B to B and maybe B to B to C, right? But a lot of breadth and a lot of depth that we're trying to do, right? So at any given point, we rely on partners like Logic to help us take that last mile into industry, right? So the partnership with Logic.io primarily centers around the manufacturing space, right? The OEM space in particular, where customers are doing complex configuration and some level of engineer to order, right? Or customers are trying to get to an omni-channel distribution model, right? And where they really help us is by coming in and doing the complex configuration, providing that deep integration into the ERP system by providing the manufacturing BOM and associated capabilities, right? But then also by using their APIs to be able to surface that commercial data not only to internal sales reps, which was kind of the traditional domain of Salesforce CPQ, but also to e-commerce sites and other ability, like integrating into distributor systems, right? So it's a partnership that's really strong and really critical for Salesforce to build partnerships like this to be able to go to market in industries and meet the market demand. And you skipped one slide for me, but that's okay because I covered the content on one slide that we were going to do in two.
Apologies.
But the thing that wasn't on the slide, so I think we're both goofing up slides now. So the thing that I didn't say and wasn't on the slides is, we're here with Meagan from OldCastle, and this is a project that I think is really kind of exceptional, and she'll tell you a lot about it, and she's going to point to all these people and all the process and the technology, but really Meagan's leadership and having an exceptional leader in your business, right, is an absolutely critical piece to getting things done. So Meagan, you've kind of moved mountains to help us be successful there.
Bill. Oh gosh.
You've kind of moved mountains to help us be successful there, and we really appreciate it, and we really value the partnership. So thank you.
Likewise.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Bill. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on Logic.io and why we built this technology that's designed to work specifically with Revenue Cloud. And one of the ways we look at actually our technology is we really look at it as a way to enable what we call the consumerized economy. And what we mean by that is all the buying experiences, no matter how complex they need to be for B2B, you really need to think about how do I make it as easy for my customer to buy from me. So the classic example of this obviously is like all the really good retailers like Amazon, LL Bean, et cetera. We're not saying sell those simple things. We're saying sell your complex products, but do it in a way that's as seamless and as frictionless as those amazing businesses have done, with their products. So we call that the consumerized economy that we help our customers enable. And what's really driving this, Right now, it's a differentiator that you can adopt in your business, but soon it'll be something that'll be a must-have that you'll need to really survive. And the reason for that is your sales reps, your distributors, and your end customers have become very impatient with how they interact to actually procure a lot of your equipment and complex services. And the things that they want is they want perfect solutions, they want expert guided assistance as they do it, and they want to be able to do it at any channel, anytime. And oftentimes they want to be able to move between channels as the transaction progresses. So a really common use case that a lot of our customers have is they actually build their configurators for Revenue Cloud, CPQ, and then they take that same configurator and they put it on their corporate website. So let my customers come to my corporate website, pick options, do their own what we call digital self-discovery, and then that becomes a lead in Salesforce, and then you then push that configuration into Rev Cloud and then complete the transaction. So that's an example going across 2 channels as the transaction moves, down the buyer journey. And that's what's really important in this concept of being able to reuse that information your customer's already given you all the way through the journey as they explore your products is really important. And the challenge specifically we work with businesses like OldCastle where they have very, very complex selling situations. The product configuration is quite involved. The quotation process is quite involved. It's typically lots of pages, diagrams, CAD drawings. Submittals are often involved. And then the last piece of it is bill of material generation. So there's the part that your customer sees when you transact, and then there's all the back office stuff that you have to do to make SAP and EBS happy to really complete the transaction. And Logic.io really helps you with all 3 of these aspects to solve this difficult business problem that our customers have in manufacturing. And what we do is we've designed this actually from the ground up. When we started the company 3 years ago, we actually developed a partnership with Salesforce where they invested in Logic.io, and we worked very closely with their product teams and their engineering teams. And we evolved the 2 solutions in parallel throughout that journey. And a couple things we did is we designed it to use the Salesforce data model. We designed it to use the Salesforce admin persona to maintain Logic.io and live with it going forward. But then we took the performance level 1,000x increase. So if you take a complex configuration model and you put it in the hands of your end customer, let's say on your website, they need that video game-like, Amazon-like performance to really continue to interact and do a lot of digital self-discovery. If they're waiting 5 minutes for every page to update and a spinning wheel, they're going to very quickly lose interest and move on, perhaps even to your competitor's product. So that's why it's a really important thing. And then the other thing we did with Logic.io is we made it a composable solution. So you can embed these configurators in Commerce Cloud, Revenue Cloud, Service Cloud, or any place that you need them. You can syndicate your product configuration throughout your business, which is really important to get a ton of value out of it. And a couple of things sort of getting into some detail on the back end on how we solve some of these solutions. If you kind of start at the left of this slide and you think about like selections and rules that are running inside the configurator, we then take that information and we build out really 2 different component sets. So one is the sales bill of material, which goes onto your quote, and then the manufacturing bill of material, which includes routing information so that you can then fulfill and build the product that you're configuring in Logic.io. And the second stream along the bottom of this is something that we install inside Salesforce as part of our managed package, and helps you manage hundreds or thousands of line items inside a configuration without having to put that into the quote process for your customer. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Megan, and she's going to tell you about OldCastle.
All right, so the important part is the green button.
Green button.
Right.
I mean,
It goes backwards.
It's not a Salesforce
Goes
product,
backwards,
so
I'm
that
telling
could
you.
be.
I mean,
Don't be
obviously
fooled.
we're still figuring that out, but I think it's the green button.
So first of all, thanks for having me, Logic. Thanks for being here, Bill, as well. I will say thanks for your kind comments, but it's really about the team that is actually getting this done for us at OldCastle. And I usually, I end with this, but I'll put it at the beginning here. to really make the story happen and the journey that we're trying to take our customers on, it's about really two things coming together. And that's having visionaries that can paint a picture of what the future is from a standpoint of the customer experience that we are trying to create. And then adding to that teams. And yeah, you want teams that have smart people on them that can understand all of this configuration and the ones and the zeros and all that. Yes, you need those folks. But more importantly to that, you need folks that are going to collaborate between the business and understand the business's need, understand the internal and external customers' needs. And so then when you're able to pull together the visionaries along with those teams, you can really set up a rallying cry that makes people anxious to get to the future regardless of the roadblocks. The last piece of that then is adding partners that help see outside the walls of the business. And that's for us what Salesforce, what Logic, Pierce Washington, CDS allow us to do, is to take us outside of the walls of our business, and more specifically outside of construction itself, which, let's just be honest, we're not known as the innovators in the world, to say, here's what's best in class, and is that something we can get to today? Or does it make sense to have some steps in going toward that? And so that's really where our story starts and comes from. But first, let me back up a little bit. If you're not familiar with OldCastle, we are a provider of infrastructure solutions that connect and protect the world or utilities from the source to the consumer. This happens across a couple of different verticals, and I'll talk about those. But our parent company is CRH. How many people have heard of CRH? Oh, man. All right. This is a different room that I'm sitting in now. I'll be sure to go tell our CEO that, we were able to get our name out here at Dreamforce. So that's been a win. So we are, CRH is a $32+ billion organization, and we lead in North America and Europe markets in building products in cement and asphalt. And we do a lot of road paving, so I'll, make a plea. I know it's tough when you see the road construction going on, but please slow down. A lot of those are folks that work for us, and let's, be safe in those zones. Safety is a priority. So OldCastle is really working across these four verticals: water, communications, energy, and transportation. If you just look at these solutions here, start to think about the breadth of the configuration and the breadth of this customer base that we are trying to give a heightened experience. And really, our business, not just as OldCastle or CRH, but overall as construction and big, heavy industrials, has been disrupted, right? No longer is it okay to have a B2C experience with the Amazons of the world that you can do all of these things online, and you can track it, and you can trace it, and you can change it, and you can turn it around in the configurator, and you can do all of that. And then you come to work and you've got matches and fire blocks and flint sticks to try to get things working, right? It doesn't work anymore, right? It's not acceptable, right, in the B2B experience. You want the same experience that you get in your personal life when you come to work. That's our customers. Our employees are saying the same thing, right? There's a different generation of the workforce coming in, and it's not acceptable to tell these folks, hey, we're going to sit you at this computer, and we want you to learn about, stormwater management. And so, great, congratulations on your engineering degree, and sit in this seat for 2 years before you really understand what you're doing. It doesn't work, right? So how do we then create the tools and the technology to engage and empower our people, and then also to speak the language throughout the organization and create a common mechanism? That's the journey that we're on, is really changing from the B2B to the B2C experience. And so that's the mission we're on. How do we simplify it? How do we connect it? How do we collaborate? How do we continue to drive performance? I'm proud because at CRH, we just got named again to Fortune's 500 top global companies. 20 consecutive years. That is a history of strong performance. We can't sit on our laurels. We won't. We're very competitive people. And we like being number one. I mean, I don't know about you, but it's great to sit up on the stage and say, hey, we're number one, right? Nobody's like, hey, we're number 17, You say, oh, we're top 25, right? You figure out a way, right? And so our mission has been to simplify and connect all of it. And so we set about really with establishing a true north. what are the commercial objectives that we want to accomplish? And it doesn't go without saying, we started at the customer. Right now, I think that in the manufacturing space, there's a lot of emphasis on the war for talent. Oh, I can't get labor. I don't have the resources. The supply chain is jacked up. And I know that because one of my roles, I am over the integrated supply chain. So that is a whole challenge there itself. I have really smart people that run that team as well. But there are a lot of folks focused on that. What happens though, and what we've become accustomed to, and I've been in manufacturing for nearly 2 decades, very close to 2 decades, so it's the baby face. But what happens is, and you see it all the time, is you get this chasm between what's happening in manufacturing in your ERP and then what's happening with your customer. And until about 2019, and yet, no, I'm not using 2020 on purpose because it wasn't COVID that was the impetus for this. It was really a shift that happened around 2019 where folks were like, I'm no longer okay with the fact that operations and commercial folks don't talk to each other, they talk at each other. And they use the excuse that, well, the technology is not helping me. What's at the foundation, though, is a process that's broken. And so for us, we started with processes and understanding what are our folks actually doing? What's the data they need? What are they looking at? How do they make decisions? How do they quote projects? And when we came to look at all of that, the first thing we recognized was that we needed to shift how we talked about our customers and put our customers first. And so when you put your customers at the center, which you can do with Customer 360 and a lot of things, and you can imagine with the scale of business the size that we have, it is a Herculean effort to look at customers in a singular way because our customers are all different, right? It's not, as if it's a, website where I'm going, to order something on Nike and I want to customize a shoe. Well, that person is buying a shoe. So at least it's one product, right? I'm customizing a shoe. For us, you saw those verticals. You could be customizing something for stormwater. You could be customizing something for communications. These are different customers with different profiles, and they have different needs. So how do we then create the same heightened customer experience? And that's where Logic as a partner and Salesforce as a partner starts to help us. And I'll talk a little bit more specifically about what that has meant for us on the journey. And so then it's about the next thing we looked at was speed to market. I don't know if you're familiar with the iron triangle, right? You can have something, good, fast, cheap, right? And you can have good and fast or cheap, and right? But you can't have all three. And when Agile came on the scene, the technology sector said, no, we can do all three, right? And so those of us, and I've been in the industrial sector, I did one stint in software, and it was cool, but I like to touch things. And so that was really hard, broke a couple of keyboards. They didn't like that. I'm like, I'm going to go back over here to, So what we did on the industrial sector was like, oh, that's those technology folks. We don't have to do that, right? And we got away with that for a while to say, no, iron triangle, you can have 2 out of 3. Well, no. Now we want everything. I want it good. I want it better than good. I want it fast. I want it right now. And I want it at a good cost and a good price. And then when you flip that internally, we want to make sure that we're getting the most out of our price as well, right? So margins and performance and profitability is important, right? We want to stay on that top 500 list, and let's just be honest, we want to go up that list, right? To where you don't have to scroll a couple of pages down to see where we are. And so how do we then increase our speed to market with new solutions that are meeting the needs of our customers even before they recognize that they have a need? Amazon is great at this. They take all of my money. The Google machine listening to me. Even right now, I cannot imagine what it's going to ask me to buy after this week, and I will get sucked in and I will buy it, hands down. I won't need it, but I will buy it and I will wear it. It just will happen. And so then the next thing we talked about and we wanted to engage our teams around was collaboration. And the hurdle we faced was we've grown by acquisitions. And so, we have a journey of integration and we have a strong process around that, but there's a timeline with that. So how do you create and facilitate an ecosystem that allows employees across functions and across locations to collaborate? Again, this is where we work with Logic, with Salesforce, with our teams to say, how do we create that outside and inside so that we can keep people in front of the customer versus trying to figure out whose phone number it is, who changed positions, who's got this email address, did they answer my email? Hey, let's start a group chat. Anybody ever been on a group chat with 40 people in different time zones? And it's 9 or 10 p.m. on Saturday? And it's 2 a.m., like, that's not fun. Nobody wants to do that, right? And so then creating a collaboration that actually works, that's searchable, that brings people together, where you can engage and you can move quickly. And then the last thing, of course, is security and standards. It can't be understated that, having a technology stack that is diverse and has a lot of different pieces, how do you tie all those pieces together? And so for us, what we were looking at is how do we then take our strategy around developing and enabling solutions, developing and enabling a workforce, empowering our customers and giving them the right information at the right times in the customer journey, and then move forward and continue to grow. And that's where we partner with Logic and Salesforce. So we've started our journey with CPQ. Now we had, prior to this, Salesforce in different parts of the business, but really what we've gone all in on is CPQ as the first kind of, here is where we start. And so what it brought for us is that listening to our customers, we knew the experience has been clunky, right? It's a lot of phone calls, it's text messages and emails and plenty of spiral-bound notebooks with things on them and bills of materials and drawers that you print out on paper and all of these things that, frankly, let's be honest, right? When you're in a process and you're in there for a long time, you're like, this works. This is fine. I don't know if you guys have seen the meme, and I think it's a monkey or something, and he's sitting at his desk and he's got a cup of coffee and it's fire all around him and he's like, this is fine. No worries, it's just fine. And it's that, right? Because you get used to, we're humans, we can adapt to just about anything, right? You adapt to masks and you can adapt to anything, right? And so, but on the other side of that was a clunky customer experience that also our customers have gotten used to. The beauty of this, though, is that being a leader in turning and putting our customers first allows us to bring to them an experience that no one else is even thinking about. And so having that customer experience that's going to be heightened, looking at the things that we kind of talked about, I really want to kind of shift a little bit and then talk about what we're getting with Logic.io and Salesforce CPQ. And so ultimately for us, it came down to defining the principles upon which our customers need information, what information we want to provide and make available, right? And then what our employees need from a standpoint of looking at these bills of materials that are complex and require configuration and sometimes need changes, oftentimes need changes, right? And you want that to be easy, right? You want to make sure that you're providing an experience where you're able to have visibility to profitability, and you want to know what your margins are and your cost, and you want to maintain product numbers and SKUs and all of these things that are very familiar to everybody in this room. But how do you unify and bring all that together? And that's where we have partnered with these very smart organizations that have products and solutions that they can bring to us. Now, it's not plug and play, right? If it were, then everyone would do it, right? And it would just be, your USB drive or your Bluetooth that you get in any rental car and you press a button and it works, right? It's not that. And it's okay, because our product is not intended to be something that's simple. Otherwise, it would not carry the value that it does, right? That's not the market that we're in. And so we knew we needed a bespoke solution, and we needed partners that are thought leaders that could bring to us and say, here's what world-class is. Here is how you want to visualize this for the average person that's coming into your company. And so having things now where, as we move through the process, where we have an estimator or a sales rep that can sit in front of a screen, or will be able to, we're, on the journey, right? Sit in front of a screen and come up with a quote and stay in a single platform. This was the other thing that was hugely important to us. We did not want folks to have to swivel chair between the CRM and the CRM and the ERP, and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. I hate it when I'm like, Delta does this, and it drives me nuts, and I hope they see this. Are they? I travel a lot, and I love their medallion line. But when you send it the thing, then it sends you the text message. And I have 2 phones, and sometimes I forget which phone I'm on. And then I'm like, why didn't they send me the text? I'm like, oh, it's on the other phone. And now they're like, hey, we've disconnected because you didn't answer. Well, I know, because it's my stupid other phone. Like, can we stay in this? And we don't want that experience for our customers. You see, I got frustrated just even right then.
That's right. You can see that. You can see that right there.
I'm going to calm down. But this is what happens, and this is how we have to sit, right? This is the posture we have to take, and we want our associates to take, and where we look at it and we say, okay, how do we prevent that confusion and that frustration? And the way we do that is you iterate and you iterate and you iterate, and you define what you need. For us, the configuration of bills and materials was hugely, hugely important because of the complexity of our products and because the breadth of our solutions portfolio itself across all of those verticals. And so now we're able to look and have a consolidated tech stack. We had multiple tools across the organization that we were using for quoting. Everybody had their favorite one, right? Oh, I like this one. I use this one. I've been using this one for 78 years. It's really great. They haven't upgraded it since 1905, but they don't need to. It's perfectly fine, right? And you're like, yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, let's do that, right? But then you have to sit on the other side and say, why do they feel attached to this piece of software? And what we had to do, this goes back to the process, and you sit there belly to belly with the folks in the field, and you understand, oh, I understand why you love this, because you have a certain way that you work through your process and with your customers, and this mimics exactly what you're doing. So there is no difference between your process and the technology you're using. So as long as we bring to you a solution that is intertwined between your process and the technology, then you will be happy. And so let's do that for you, right? And that's where we look at the things that we're able to do with the visualization of CDS, with the integration of the Logic.io solution. The last point on here, right? So the ability for it to be unique to us, and you hear me, I'm not typically a stutterer, but in my mind, I'm going through my map of things that I should not say that are going to be out there for general consumption. What I will say is that our solution is fully unique and a differentiator from anything that's being done in the industry for our customer base. And we're really proud of that. And I would love to talk about it, but I like my job and I love paying my mortgage. So, but I think you will see in the demo the capabilities of the system. And then you can just let your mind take hold and you can have great dreams about what that looks like and what that means. So with that, I will give it back to you.
Yep, we'll take it to Navia and she'll take you through the demo. Switch spots.
Touch those buttons.
I will not touch the buttons. Navi will get very angry.
All right, perfect. So as we're getting started here, I always like to set the scene a little bit for what we're going to see in the demo. So think of me as an internal rep at a manufacturing distributor, and I've got a customer that would like a generator set. So let's say it's a hospital. I'm going to come in. I'm starting out in Salesforce CPQ. I've already created a new opportunity and a new quote. So you'll see no prices are attached here. And I'm going to proceed to the product selection step. And that's where Logic comes into play. So with our managed package, you're just going to enable those product records in Salesforce CPQ and just label them as, Logic enabled for the ones that require the advanced configurator. You'll see right here, no prices attached. That's because we're going to build that out as we come in and configure. So right here, from a UI standpoint, you'll see we're integrated seamlessly with Salesforce CPQ. I can navigate directly back to accounts, opportunities, quotes. But right here, we're going to be within the configuration. And to get started, rather than come in and select a specific SKU or a part number, I'm just going to start answering some questions about what it is that my customer needs. They want to run this generator standby? Great. Going to be set in the US. Okay, so right off the bat, we're just answering some questions. If I already knew exactly which model they're looking for, I can come down here and select. We've got about 30 or so generators I can choose from. But if we still want to narrow that down, make that a really seamless experience, let's just say they're running diesel fuel. Okay, already we have 6 options to choose from. So it's narrowing in on that list. That's the logic rules engine at work. I can select a power output here, but let's say I want to actually check and make sure that's going to be enough for what I require. So I've got a neat system here. I can start entering which appliances are going to require this generator. And let's start putting that in. It's going to populate exactly what the load is going to be. Let's set this at the maximum load. And as I continue to add in items, it's going to start summing together what that total load needs to be. And you'll see as we get in here and add a couple more, once I add and go over the amount that's available, we're actually going to see the system tell us, hey, this is too low of a generator, so we need to actually increase the power output. So you're going to be, I can't even quote this. Logic is telling me, hey, you need to make a change before moving forward. So up here, once I make a change on the power output, a few things are going to happen. You'll actually see a generator model get automatically selected for us. We'll see some compliance information, and I'll actually start to see some sales line items building out. I always like to call that out ahead of time because as soon as I make this change, that all is going to run instantly. So again, we have that really fast experience that customers are looking for. Right here, the 40 kilowatt diesel generator has been selected. I even have dynamic messaging. So I know, okay, this was actually recommended based on those inputs that I included previously. We have compliance information here. If I need some more information, I can actually see there's a link out to an informational video. This can be anything from like helper text, PDFs, really anything you need within the single configuration experience. We want to be able to include that here for the user. Now, last thing I want to do here is select my voltage. Again, you'll see I have a menu of options to choose from, a little bit different than that generator model. We have a few choices that are disabled, so I can still see, hey, we're able to handle these other voltages, but they're just not going to be compatible with the model that I've selected. Just a different way to display this to the user. That's the last selection I make. That went ahead and set an alternator for us. And you'll notice, while both the alternator and the generator model were set for us based on the inputs that I selected, the alternator is fully locked down, so I don't have the option to change that. Whereas the generator model, as the user, I can come in and override those. So there are two other models that are compatible. I can make that selection. So just a couple of different guardrails we can put in place to make sure that it's a valid configuration. We want to ensure everything is configured correctly. Over here on our sales line items. So these are those items that are going to get passed to the quote line editor. You'll see these are pulling directly from what's already set up in Salesforce CPQ, those product records, those price book entries. So you don't need to set that up in two different places. Again, that integration is right there. As we continue through, I have the ability to configure other parts of my system. I can select an engine. If we need to compare different models, you see here we can just take a look at what are the attributes and discuss with my customer, hey, this is going to be the best model for us. And as I come in to the fuel system, Logic does have a full math engine. All I need to know as the user is what the runtime is going to be. That's going to immediately calculate in real time my required fuel output and even set some accessories that I need for the fuel system. As I continue to make inputs here, you'll see that this line item list is updating in real time, dynamically, and even showing me, hey, because you selected the mechanical fuel gauge, you can't select the electrical one, excuse me. So again, that rules engine is constantly at work here. Last piece, I have some other add-ons. I can include a support package. We can include additional hours and even some testing, and you'll see all of that reflected here within the bill of materials. Something to take note, when I'm selecting my testing hours here, I want you to focus on this line item. And as I increase the number of testing hours, you'll actually see that the price per hour is going to decrease. So we do have a little bit of that pricing, that attribute-based pricing here baked into Logic, and that's going to be reflected here within that line. Once I'm good to go, I can make some selections on third-party testing. And then finally here, we mentioned we can have separate bills of materials. what you're seeing here is those 11 sales line items that the customer cares about. This is what's going to the quote line editor. In the background, we're also tracking over 1,200 manufacturing line items. So separating out those bills of materials, these are going to be all those nuts and bolts required to actually build out the generator set. But as the salesperson, as the customer, we don't care about all of this. We just want to pass this downstream to the ERP system. But Logic is going to help us track those and offload that from the QLE. Once we're good to go here, all I need to do is hit quote. This is jumping us back to Salesforce CPQ, and I can proceed with discretionary discounting, approvals, and document generation as usual.
Cool. Thanks, Navia.
Yeah.
That was great.
Cool stuff.
And I think we're done. I just want to thank Meagan again.
Oh, my pleasure.
She's a very popular person here, as you can see, at Dreamforce. We're very lucky to have her time today, so thank you very much for doing that.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And thank you,
Appreciate
Bill.
you guys as
Likewise, you
partners.
probably have 600 meetings today and tomorrow, so
All right.
very thankful to have Bill's time too here with us. So thank you all for joining us. Have a great time at the concert tonight. So thanks.
Free fighters.
That was great, Meagan.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks a lot.